I'm Bruce the Blog, and where's Bazzo? Well, he's always in the PennySaver. Here's Bazzo, and you're watching Bruce the Blog Goes Bazzo! This is where we just sort of talk, because they can't hear us anyhow. But yeah, so we... Bruce the Blog Goes Bazzo. I am very sorry to say that my good friend and erstwhile co-host, Andy Bazzo, had a little mishap involving his ankle. Believe me, Bazzo is the ultimate trooper. If there was any way he could have ankled it over here to the studio, he would have. And so I know he's in a lot of discomfort. Hopefully by the time you watch this, he will be all on the mend and much better and up and walking again, and he'll be here for the next show, I'm sure. So going solo today, and I want to welcome our guest, Grigory Kravtsov. Grigory, welcome. We also want to remind you that we are brought to you by the PennySaver and by our parent company, Chase Media Group. And as always, we thank CEO Carla Chase and Chief Strategy Officer Frank Rich for putting us up here and putting up with us. And Grigory, there's a lot that we could talk about today, but I know that you have a passion for a lot of issues involving the community. Both of us happen to live in Yorktown, but I think a lot of what you're going to talk about could apply to almost any town, the current economy, the need for lower taxes that everybody agrees with. But you have a very interesting approach to this that involves museums.
That's right.
And so why don't you start off by just talking about your thoughts on what's happening with the local economy and in Yorktown.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank for the opportunity, which was gracefully given to me, to be on a program and to address all Yorktown residents
and beyond,
about these important issues. I believe that I do have some qualifications on the issue for following reasons. I came into this country in 1980 from former Soviet Union. I was a background in construction engineering. It was in 1980s. It was following Carter's recession, so I had to study something else.
President Carter, yeah.
Yes,
right,
I was a young fellow, so I studied, and I was an artist, so I studied artistical application in tool and die making.
Tool and die, yes.
Tool and die,
right.
in New York City. In that time, it was still a viable industry. Reagan uplifted the economy, so it was...
So you're a Reagan Republican, huh?
I am, yes, absolutely, absolutely, because it was Ronald Reagan who gave all Americans, including newcomers, a sense of not just belonging, but a sense of that you are given an opportunity and a chance, given that you are good at something.
The American dream. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Given that you're good at something. In my case, it was trying to become good at something and at a new profession, which was tool and die, and then manufacturing, and then application of sculpture and engraving and artistic model making for the tool and die industry. And I became pretty good in it. So by the end of 80s, I was able to participate in a flourishing New York City tool and die business.
Yes.
Part of it was creation of museum replicas of museum collections. Very important museums such as Metropolitan Museum of Art, Museum of Modern Art.
Guggenheim, maybe?
No,
not the Guggenheim.
no. Yes, we had enough work with Metropolitan.
Right,
Believe
yeah,
me, Metropolitan
right.
has a huge collection,
Right.
and they are very successful in doing fundraisers, creating replicas, and for the museum shops. They're doing
Right.
flourishing business just selling replicas of their
Right.
stuff.
Right.
And that was fine and good until China came on the scene, and basically United States voluntarily gave its manufacturing capacity and a base to China. And at first it seems like a small thing, innocuous and beneficial for all proposition. And little by little, China, with a cheap labor and some outright stealing of technology, they basically stole the whole premise of who is in charge of manufacturing and who has a manufacturing capacity. So now,
And they do it cheaper.
not only they do
right.
it cheaper, they do it in a very vicious way of let's put it this way: whatever we won't be able to buy from you, whatever you don't want to sell us as far as manufacturing secrets and technology, we'll just steal it outright.
Well, when
And-
you say steal, you don't mean literally steal.
No, literally steal.
What, are you saying it's a crime?
It is a crime, yeah. In technology, it is a crime, and
You're
it's,
saying they're stealing patents?
they just using unauthorized patents, and you keep hearing about companies like Apple or Microsoft constantly suing or being on litigating
right.
about
Well,
infringement.
there's also I used to be, my whole career up until about 7-8 years ago, I was involved on the software side of the entertainment industry, and it's the same thing with the movie studios,
Right.
which, I remember the statistic, which is remarkable by our standards, something at one point, something like 80 to 90% of the software sold in China was bootleg software.
Exactly, but and the reason it's so prominent is because everybody can relate to software because they're using it on their computer, and everybody can relate to movies, pirated movies, because they watch the movies, but nobody can even understand how is it possible to steal a way of manufacturing tool and die, something was connected with tool and die, and yet it was stolen, and it's used without licenses, and the United States manufacturing even gave up on the idea of trying to hold Chinese manufacturers, unscrupulous manufacturers, unless they explicitly put a bootlegging stamp like Gucci or Tiffany or
Right.
Cartier. Then Tiffany goes after them, or
Yeah,
Cartier
absolutely
goes
right,
after.
but, yeah,
But
yeah.
no, the middle man who manufactures the equipment on which that bootlegged
Right.
Product was manufactured, his right is also violated.
Oh, yeah, no, in fact, I used to be involved for a number of years with those companies, the European and, as you know, mostly German companies,
Right.
the engineering geniuses that made the replicating and manufacturing machines for DVDs and CDs. And while I was in that industry, just like you're saying, the Chinese came in. They'd be at these trade shows showing their equipment. The German companies would go over to the exhibits and go, how the hell did they reverse engineered it?
Absolutely,
Obviously, right.
absolutely.
Anyhow, let's get back though, because we
All
only
right.
have 30 minutes, to your museum
Okay, so
plan.
I'm just trying to establish
Right, the
a
background,
base
yeah.
from which I will explain the next thing. So I was involved in that, and I became pretty good in it. I worked for top line manufacturers, and then I went on my own, and I had a very successful tool and die business of my own, which I still have. So when I bought a house in Yorktown in 1996, it was still like a pre-internet era of
Right.
still the mom and pop stores were in existence
Sure.
somewhat, and some manufacturing was still in existence. And then when internet came and it became possible for final consumer to order something directly
Right.
from using internet
Online, yeah.
online, this was sort of the last nail in a coffin of I would call it not just American manufacturing, but American manufacturing plus the next step of distribution of the products.
Although it is true that in terms of total retail sales, the internet still represents a pretty small percentage, even today.
Maybe so, but where is the mom and pop stores? I will ask
Yeah, well,
you.
that's that. Well, if you're talking about bricks and mortar retailing, that's a separate issue that has to do a lot with big box stores. you know, as well as the internet. It depends on the merchandise.
But big box stores, exclusively and explicitly, it's all coming from China, like Walmart and JCPenney and anything except Home Depot with the bulky lumber. Everything comes from China. So this confluence of circumstances basically priced out American, not only consumer, but American manufacturer and American middle retailer and distributor. It's priced out of market completely.
Right.
And I'm talking about all this just to support an idea that as a bedroom community in Yorktown, we've been gradually losing our ability to pay for everything, including our taxes and our mortgages and education for our kids. We've been steadily losing the financial base to pay
you're saying
for
the
it.
tax burden keeps getting shifted to the homeowner.
Exactly,
Yeah, the property owner.
on a front end, and
Right.
on a back end, we as a American workforce are losing ability to make a living and to earn money in order to support the increasing tax burden.
It's what they call a double whammy.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about again before we. I want to run out of time. How you see museums, interacting or being a catalyst for helping to lower taxes.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. So what I'm trying to say is that before like in 1990s and before, museum was a thing of like a discretionary pleasure or discretionary a demonstration of Yorktown ability that museum is there only because Yorktown can afford it, and it was somewhat relevant during the administration, like in 1990s, town administration. Unfortunately, when times get tough, people are trying to basically like pull in,
Tighten their belt.
exactly, and it's time to consider how a museum can become, instead of revenue,
instead of a cost center, I think you're saying it could be a profit center.
exactly,
Yeah.
not a profit, but I want
A revenue stream.
a revenue stream,
Right.
exactly, at least to the amount that museum costs town. Museum now costs around $70,000 in salaries and supporting fees, $70,000 per year. I have confidence based on my work with Katona Museum and Metropolitan Museum of Art of creating a revenue stream at least 70,000 or more, so that if
So you're saying it'll be break even.
it will be break even and then some. I know that in Katona Museum makes actually huge money, and they make it even without having an important permanent exhibition.
Is it from donors or patrons? Or
No. You'll be surprised. Donors and patrons create it's a very interesting concept. They create like notion of importance, and then a museum can bring a collection from somewhere. They can borrow works of art or borrow something.
What do you mean, because of the prestige?
Because of the prestige, exactly. But prestige is created by somebody who is on a museum board and who has a credentials for museum board.
Yes, right.
As opposed to Yorktown, where Alice Rocker, now our town clerk, she is a director, and right. She simply has no time. She has no time to devote.
But isn't it also true that as far as that part, how much demand is there in a town like Yorktown, by the residents to go to a museum?
As of now,
a Yorktown museum.
As of now, it's very little. As of now, it's non-existent.
And I think there's hardly any awareness there is.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that was part of the reason why I started to bring this proposal, and I'm bringing it constantly to town hall meetings. I spoke with Michael Grace. I spoke
the town supervisor.
I spoke separately with town councilman. As a matter of fact, Vishnu Patel is explicitly for my proposal.
And what is the proposal?
The proposal is to reinstate the board and to
the museum board.
Board, and to place me as a coordinator explicitly for fundraising, explicitly to secure a financial well-being and financial self-support for museum. As of now, it's officially Friends of Museum should do this work, and it's been neglected, and it's not successful at all, and it's been steadily going down. They cannot raise absolutely no money of any significance. And part of the reason is that it's like a vicious cycle, catch-22. If you lose your prestige and your artistic and cultural interest in a community, then community don't even know about you, then nobody would contribute. Nobody goes there, nobody contribute, and it's a vicious cycle going down. So I would like to reverse this trend and create a opposite cycle of going up with the prestige, with a cultural and artistic visibility, by bringing important collections and by bringing important even topics for people.
So when you're saying, Grigory, a Yorktown Museum, and I'm sure it applies as well to the Katona Museum, it doesn't mean that the museum is only about that town, right? It's not that the artifacts are only.
You can say that,
right?
But I don't want to give a weapon in the hands of my opponents, who might say, look, and I was given this once when they tried just to say no to whatever I propose. They said, look, we read in the constitution of a town, it says Yorktown Museum serve people of Yorktown as is a repository or display of cultural, artistic, and historical things pertaining to Yorktown. So I said, fine, we can do that. We even made a special
what is that, medallion?
A medallion, yes, yeah. Pertaining to our local history.
Right.
And when this was done, they found something else to deny it. So that was the most important thing. Then I realized that they just want to preserve status quo. They don't want to move on any new ideas, because it is convenient for them. Agree, for people by nature are not just conservatives, but they don't want to be bothered. And if they can collect taxes from your real estate property and just pay from these taxes, pay outright for whatever, let's say for museum salaries, they would rather do that than use their creativity and be bothered about like new exhibitions, or about bringing prestige of the museum up in order to bring new visitors into the town. They don't want to do that.
Now, is there, I should know this, but I will admit to not knowing it. Hence the question. Is there a curator for the Yorktown Museum?
I would say there are two ladies which are very nice, very knowledgeable, who run museum, and they do a very good job. I have no problem with them. And basically salaries to them is a main, their salaries is the main expense of the museum. Unfortunately, it's not enough.
I would say, again, as a resident, and not only as a resident, but as somebody, as you know, who was publisher of the local newspaper for several years, and I'm very involved in the community. To me, the Yorktown Museum is off the radar.
Very unfortunate.
That's a fair
it's
statement.
True.
I'm not being critical.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, if you ask most people in Yorktown, they wouldn't even know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And I don't want to get into the explanation of why that happened. It's enough to say that the vicious cycle of going down in losing of people's interest, losing visibility, losing creativity, and losing the status in residents' mind of what it's all about, need to be reversed.
Now you say you've learned a lot from the Katona Museum.
Yes.
I mean, has the Katona Museum had any kind of direct impact on taxes?
Absolutely. Katona Museum, if you open Sunday Times, Westchester section, you will always see something new and fresh in Katona Museum.
But my question is, I mean, so they do a good job of promoting themselves, which is why
they make huge
it's
money.
Probably a thriving enterprise. Yeah. But I would think that the town board of Yorktown would want to know very specifically the numbers of how is that going to benefit us, on taxes. With hard numbers.
70,000 is promised. It's an ironclad promise.
But if you translate that into taxes per capita, it's barely, a drop in the bucket.
I agree. But I want to draw on a parallel with Yorktown stage. See how Barry created the whole ambience and the whole idea of people coming to Yorktown stage and then patronizing local restaurants and local establishments after they visited Yorktown
No,
stage.
absolutely. Barry Liebman
yeah.
doesn't get nearly the credit he deserves for how
He
he's culturally enriched Yorktown.
He created a point of destination.
Yeah, right.
It is a point of destination.
Right.
So for the lack of hard numbers past 70,000 per year, and as you said, maybe rightfully so, drop in a bucket per every household, you create another point of destination of people from somewhere else to come to Yorktown to visit, to see something of legitimate interest. Not if you even look what kind of a exhibition Yorktown Museum was able to put up so far. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
pitiful.
pitiful.
And I can tell you, I think, as you know, I do work closely with Supervisor Grace, on community initiatives, and I know he is a very strong advocate of strengthening and developing the cultural assets of Yorktown. Because Yorktown, as with other towns in the vicinity, needs to, have a more thriving local cultural base. Culture base. I mean, Katona is a great example. Katona does a really good job with that. And speaking of the Yorktown stage, one of the issues there is that the productions that Barry Liebman puts on are excellent. I mean, they're really
losing money. It was his word. They're
right.
constantly losing money.
But he doesn't get enough support. Support meaning customers, business. As he will tell you. So that's another issue too. You could lead somebody to water, but you can't make them drink.
Right. But what I'm saying is that, and this point was always put up as something that I have to prove. They said, give us a hard figures and make sure that it doesn't cost town nothing. So to implement.
That it doesn't cost the town. Period.
Absolutely,
right?
It will not cost.
Now, did
town.
you do that?
Yes. I showed in my proposal to successive administration of Don Peters, Linda Cooper, and Sue Siegel. I submitted to all those administration a concrete proposal.
So that goes back quite a number of years.
Absolutely, it goes back to Alice,
years,
to Cooper, Linda Cooper administration.
Right. 15 years.
Yes, and now everybody knows that it will not cost anything to the town. It's a $70,000 per year, new fresh money, and then some. Why I'm so sure? Because during my work with Katona Museum, I realized that they treasured this this type of work, the stamping of commemorative memorabilia,
right,
very highly. In other words, they realized that something like this, as far as revenue generation, would probably beat in a visiting exhibit from important collection, visiting like a painting exhibit, because
right.
In a painting exhibition, people only buy ticket and maybe a couple of postcards, but with a fine
art,
fine art, fine stamped art, even maybe on a semi-precious or precious metal such as silver, people will buy this as an investment type of proposition, and they will pay a lot. And this is a high profit.
And what do they do
high
with
margin.
it? What do they do with that?
They store it as you would store your American Eagle coin.
Oh, okay, or bonds maybe, or yeah.
No. Only coin, because it's a silver value. It's a bullion value.
Okay.
Can you imagine?
Right.
So we could collect a significant amount of money just selling people a coinage of precious metals.
Right.
And I've been doing it for Metropolitan, and I know how it's done. You see, it's a brand new proposition. Do you collect silver just for the bullion value? You should actually.
No,
you should, because with American
I
dollar.
collect silver to eat with, but no, I don't collect.
Okay,
silver.
but I know for a fact that a significant number of Yorktown residents
do that.
Or
oh,
they're
really?
numismatists, yes, and they do collect. Something of a bullion value. It's not a jewelry. It's something.
You're saying it's an investment. Yeah. Right.
It is an investment.
Right.
And in today's economy, where everybody, all countries, including United States, sooner or later will start printing money to offset debt, because we cannot work our way out of the debt without just inflating our way. So the gold now costs about $1,600 per ounce. Silver costs about $28 per troy ounce. And experts predict doubling a price in a few years. So it is a good financial proposition for people to buy precious metals in a bullion form. So this is the best way for a town to capitalize on it.
Right. Okay.
And I'm proposing it completely free for the town. What could be better? It will not cost a dime to the town. And what else? I'm not proposing like building something that would infringe on a wetland or increase traffic or needed a new road. It's art.
Right.
It's art in its purest form, and art can serve people. It's not only the other way around, that people have to spend money on art. Art can generate revenues, but you have to know how to do it. And unfortunately, current administration and three administration past that, they didn't know, and the worst thing, they didn't want to learn to know. Not only that, when I was bringing it to them, they didn't want to move only because they felt it would infringe on their power of Alice Rocker to hold it single-handedly, to the detriment of museum itself and possible revenue generation.
Right. Do you know, that reminds me, interestingly enough, there's an exhibit, I believe it's at the J. Pierpont Morgan Library in Manhattan, on Winston Churchill, you know, on his speeches and things like that. And one of the things I read, which really pertains exactly to what you're saying, you know, of course, Winston Churchill is famous for many things. He was a Renaissance man, but certainly famous for his quotes and you know, his eloquence. And so the story goes that during wartime, one of his ministers asked him, Mr. Prime Minister, should we cut the cultural budget? And his response was, then what are we fighting for? Right? That was his point.
Absolutely.
He goes, we're fighting for our freedom to be able to have our own culture and to enjoy the arts, and so
if it can bring our taxes down, all the best.
Right.
So you're saying 70,000 in a drop in a bucket when it's divided by the number of household. I'm promising much more than 70,000. Okay, I would like to use this occasion to promise to Yorktown residents and to Yorktown administration that if my proposal will be given a fair hearing and hopefully it will go forward, namely to reinstate the board and put me in charge of financial fundraising, I promise to raise enough to make a significant drop in a per capita taxation in Yorktown. We have what, 12,000?
15, something like that.
12,000 households.
15,000.
What would you call a significant drop in a tax rate? $100 per household? $100 would be significant per each house, per each property.
Per year or
per year? No, per year.
I mean, $100 is
okay. $100. So you need 1,200 times 100. How much it will be? We're talking about 120,000 million.
$120,000, right?
$120,000?
Yeah.
Or a million?
I think not a million.
Okay, 100. Okay, I can give you a promise of
maybe I'm not doing the math quickly, but we have to
think
wrap up the show.
Million.
Right?
Million.
Okay.
All right. A million. It is possible.
Right.
A good exhibition, a serious exhibition, and a traveling exhibitions can bring $1 million.
Okay. Well, we'll see where this goes, but we have to wrap it up. Grigory, thanks very much for being with us. It's fascinating, and you've done a lot of. I know, deep thinking on this topic.
Absolutely. As a homeowner myself,
as am I. And I want to salute, actually, my co-host Bazzo, and we send him well wishes. And it's always his opinion, even when he's not here, and you may beg to differ. And when Bruce the Blog listens, people talk. Thanks for watching, everyone.